Hey, hello everyone. I'm Gabriela Casineanu from Introverts Academy. I'm an award-winning author and a system coach. And today with me it's Brent Edwards. Welcome, Brent, to my Live with Gabriela LinkedIn show.
I am delighted to be on your Live with Gabriela TV show today.
Oh,
It's so great.
thanks for coming. So I know you for several years, and what surprised me when we met was you have such a broad background, and you went all over Canada. And I was talking from the perspective of immigrants because I'm an immigrant, and you're like, take it from here. What did you answer when I say that?
For sure. Yeah. So one of my passion projects is helping newcomers to Canada with really surmounting their number one challenge with restarting their careers in Canada, which is lack of a professional network.
So
So
before
so I
telling,
start yeah so before
oh
yeah
yes,
so I started that about 4 years ago, but happy to talk a bit about how I got to that point.
yeah, I like you to tell us about yourself first, and then
Sure.
that's how you got to that point of being passionate about working with newcomers.
uh, Absolutely. So I've been involved in business development, product marketing, product management for about 35 years, and actually came to Toronto in the late 80s from British Columbia, where I grew up. And when I moved to Toronto, I knew no one. The only people I knew were the new employer that I was coming to work for, and my sister and brother-in-law who lived in Hamilton at the time. That was it. So I was really starting from scratch, and I felt like a newcomer to Toronto. Um, I was moving into a sales role and really needed to build up my network and people and relationships. I didn't have any friends in Toronto, so I guess there are. Even though I was moving from Vancouver, same country, um, there are some cultural differences between the West Coast and the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area. So I think I personally went through some transformations, and there may be some, broad or some overlap to what a newcomer may go through who's a new immigrant to Canada. Again, there was I went to school here. I grew up in Canada, but there were some uh, bumps that I had to go through, and some definitely learnings to start my new life in Toronto.
Mhm. And what I liked about you when I said that I'm an immigrant, you said, you know what? I'm an immigrant too. I'm a third generation immigrant. And I found it very interesting because when we come here, we're thinking about Canadians and immigrants, but actually, you're not the first Canadian born citizen. That tells me that actually we are immigrants as well. If you're not native Indian, for example, you are an immigrant. Maybe your parents or grandparents came here many years ago. So I loved your approach and how you present it.
Yeah,
Yourself.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, my grandparents on my father's side came from the States, so I've met a lot of people who've said, "Well, that's you didn't really, they didn't really immigrate to Canada." Well, in some ways they did. My grandfather grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, and then lived in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where I met my grandmother. Now, on my mother's side, they actually immigrated to Canada from Northern Ireland in about 1830, and my parents' side, you can tell I'm the genealogist in the family. Some of them were in the United States even before it was the U.S. back in the 1700s. So they've been over in North America for quite a long time.
Yeah, and I noticed I worked with a lot of immigrants, and I had clients who immigrated from states to Canada, and they had a hard time to adjust to the Canadian job market. They had a hard time to understand that it's different. It's a different type of culture, a different type of environment, and I like that you're talking about this because many people don't realize, even if you speak English when you come here, you might need time to adjust to whatever is here. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the challenges that I find with newcomers to Canada, regardless of where they come from, is some of it, it's the subtle differences. And, you know, this is a very large country. We have newcomers coming from also very large, complex countries with many different backgrounds and faiths, belief systems, cultures. And it's the same in Canada. I think the Canadian culture tends to be not as direct as some of the other English speaking, primarily English speaking cultures. Again, of course, we have Quebec and the whole French influence, and places like New Brunswick, etc. So I think it's those subtle business culture differences of what I do some consulting on to newcomers who are looking to start their own business or looking at the career market, and it's the small differences which can trip them up and make things a little more difficult for them than need be.
and like you were saying, you moved in Canada several times, so we could consider everyone who changes career or who moves to a new city, it's a newcomer.
Oh
Right?
yeah, I mean I've moved. I was in the travel industry for 20 years, and then I was in financial services. I've worked in market research, worked in nonprofits. And every organization has their own subculture, even if you're in a big multinational. And I've worked in several very large companies. Certain departments have their own culture. There's the culture of the individual and their own immediate background. There is the cultural differences of the region of the country they're from, let alone some of the national differences. So it's kind of that iceberg analogy where you can see some of the differences on the surface, but actually a lot of them are the tricky ones are below the surface and are things that it would be great for newcomers to be coached on to help them with accelerating their careers in the new country of their choice.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I know you are a networking strategy, a networking guru, I would say. I see you being interviewed on different channels, and you're very active in different type of groups and organizations. Would you like to share a few networking tips and strategies? How people who change careers or who are moving from one place to another can build a network? Uh,
Yeah,
let's start with the idea. What is networking for you, and
sure.
why you should network?
Okay, kind of start with the definition. So I guess the way I see it is networking is the way that we build professional relationships, both within our employer and within the broader community, regardless of what sector or industry we work in.
Mhm.
And it's also one of the primary ways people advance their career in Canada is through networking. So networking can take so many forms. A friend of mine had done some analysis, and he found that this is again pre-COVID and before the pandemic, that there were about I think 8,000 networking opportunities in the city of Toronto per year, and if you count the Greater Toronto area, probably about 25,000. So there are everything from Toastmasters clubs to uh, business organizations, associations, chambers, boards of trade. There are all kinds of meetup groups, groups of entrepreneurs, networking groups. So many choices. So part of it is you want to find a networking group where you can actually shine. So it's a group where you feel comfortable with, but there's a continuing influx of new people that you can connect with. I would also advise people who are looking to build their network to really looking at it like an investment portfolio. So no matter how the stock markets are doing, you wouldn't put all your money into one stock
Mhm.
or one type of investment. You try to diversify. And so if I look back before the pandemic, and I had again spent a lot of time in the travel industry, those are some of the industries, booking and entertainment and hospitality and hotels, etc., which were hit the hardest, unfortunately, by the pandemic. So you really need to look to broaden your portfolio of who your connections are. There's the gentleman named Kingsley Atkins who is a real networking guru, not like myself, who's still learning. He runs a networking institute in Ireland, and he encourages people to look and say, will your current network take you where you want to go in 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
And if not, what do you need to do in terms of building your network? A lot of people, I think, and including myself in the past, make assumptions about, well, I need to meet the vice president of so-and-so or the director of this, or, an academic person in this field. But the thing to keep in mind is, in reality, when you're doing networking, whether it's over Zoom or Teams or in person, you really, the odds are you really don't know the person that you're meeting. You're just, tip of the iceberg idea. You also don't know who they were. You don't know who they know. And most importantly, you don't know who they might become. Mm-hmm. So it's the whole judging a book by its cover. If you start making assumptions about, well, I really don't need to meet that person, or they're not going to meet my immediate needs, you're probably making a mistake and probably want to, and I know this is something that you're passionate about, Gabrielle, in terms of your mindset. You need to have a curious mindset in terms of the people that you're meeting. Another thing that was brought to me, so we both have been involved with New Canadians and New Canadians TV and been interviewed for that. One of the questions I was remember doing a session about networking. I said, the interviewer asked me if networking, so they said, so networking is not transactional. And I said, yes, that's right. I was curious in terms of the reason she was asking that. But really, it's not a case of I'm going to help you and you're going to help me and I'll help you this week and you'll help me next. Networking in Canada doesn't work that way. That's one of the reasons why the mindset's so important. You need to be able to take an approach where you're a generous networker and not to expect that you're going to get immediate payback. Who knows if the people are able to help you? They may help you down the road just when you're least expect it. And that's, again, part of the mindset of being a generous networker and a successful networker in the Canadian business environment.
Thank you. I know you're an extrovert, I'm an introvert, so let me
that's what you keep telling me. I'm starting to believe you.
So we have a comment here. Someone, I don't understand what she's saying. Maybe Amelia, if you have a comment or a question, if you can write it, we can see it and answer your question or address your comment. So from an introvert perspective, networking in itself, it's not something that comes easily to an introvert. It's overwhelming. So when I hear people, you need to network, you need to go out, you need to build connections, it's not so easy for an introvert to do that. So we kind of stay apart. What happened to me when I came to Canada, I did networking without doing networking, without calling it networking.
Okay.
Because I came here, I knew that I'm new in a world, I didn't know much. So I started going to one organization, talking to one person. I got some information, some ideas. I went in another place, I connected with people this way. So I was doing networking, but I didn't know that it's called networking. From my perspective was, I was strategic in what I'm looking for, and I was going into those places and to find that kind of information that I was needing. So to me, it's not about networking, just the word. To me, it looks like aimless. The word it's in itself, it's strategic networking.
Yes.
So what is your goal? What do you want to do? Where do you want to be 5 years from now, like you're saying? Or what is my midterm, short-term goal. What can I do about that? So that, from an introvert perspective, that will motivate you to go out and find the information that you need, and ask people about the information that you need. So your network will increase, but in a more organic way, instead of forcing yourself to connect with other people. So that's what I found, and I put, we have a course on Introverts Academy website. It's called Networking the Introverts Way, because in that course I'm talking about how introverts can use the concept of networking, but in a more genuine way, to show up as they are. Because if you ask me, go and talk to that person, I might not show up like I'm talking to you right now. I'm not at ease. And if I'm going to a networking event with a lot of people in the room, I might not even go there. Or if I'm going, I will stay in a corner and just observe, because it's much easier for us. It's an overwhelming environment to be there. So for introverts, it's not that we have to discard the term of networking. It's just to adapt it to who we are and what we want. And in the process, we will build that network that you're talking about. And I like what you're saying. Actually, you need to constantly build your network. Increase the number of people that you know, that you're connected to. Because at one point you might need some information, and someone in your network might have that kind of information or direct you to something.
Or they might need you.
Yeah. Or if you just start a network right now because you need, let's say, a job, or you need to find something, you don't have that network of people that can help you, at least at the beginning, giving you a push into what else you can do. So that's the perspective where I come from as an introvert.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's the thing. What does they say, that something about the thirsty person, shouldn't be the one, digging a well. You should dig a well before you're thirsty. So I think there's a couple of elements around networking. One is building relationships, and the other is doing research. And I love doing research. I worked in market research, but there's a lot of answers to questions that you don't have. And there are so many people who are great resources who may be able to help you. I think part of it is also, you need to be able to be clear how they can help you. So that's one of my favorite quotes from movies is the movie Jerry Maguire from '96 with Tom Cruise, and he plays a sports agent, and he's having a difficult relationship with his client, who's a football player for the one of the NFL teams, and he basically says, "Help me help you." So it's like, what can I do? How can I assist you? But as a newcomer, anyone searching for a job, looking to move in another part of the country, people want to be able to assist. Generally, people want to help. Most people want to help. But you need to be clear with them how they can help you. And I think that's something to keep in mind. In terms of finding an environment and about being an introvert, I think for myself, I think I've had times when I felt very introverted, where I didn't know anyone and would rather do the research than go out and actually meet the people. So I've had to push myself as well to kind of put myself out there, especially on social media or doing podcasts or LinkedIn Lives, or those are things that I wasn't necessarily comfortable doing, but I've had to push myself because I feel so passionate about helping newcomers. So I think there's a lot of ways to go about networking and doing it in a way that you feel authentic. Because if you're not authentic and you're trying to be somebody else, people will see through that very quickly, and you won't feel comfortable about how you're coming across, and you won't be putting your best foot forward.
Yeah, so true. And I like to add a few things about what you said. When you say to be clear about what kind of help you want, you need to ask a question, a very specific question. I was telling people, I would like to help you. How can I help you? And they like, I don't know. If you don't know, how can I help you?
Yes, exactly. But I think it goes back to making asks. And I found this is also something which, again, we're talking about newcomers, and newcomers come from all different backgrounds and countries and experiences and, work and life experiences. But what I've noticed is that you need to show that you've done your homework.
Mm-hmm.
You've done an investigation, you've done self-reflection, and you know what you're looking for. You may not know how to get there or who to talk to or where to find the information, but you need to show other people that you've made the effort already. And if you've made the effort, people are more willing to help you go to the next step.
Yeah, you have to meet them halfway. Jigna, I hope I pronounced correctly, has a comment. I'm a very quiet person, and I don't know what to do when I meet people. This is very helpful and interested to learn today. Thank you so much, Jitna. So I want to share with you my first experience with a networking event in Canada. I didn't want to go there. I was going through a workshop, and one of my colleagues said, would you like to go together to that event? That's one thing that you can do. If you can bring someone else with you or go with someone who is already committed to go to that event, it will be helpful because you don't feel alone there. You feel that if you need something, you can ask.
Yes.
So we went there. And I was sitting in a corner looking at all those people who are chatting, and I didn't know what to do. And my friend, she was an extrovert. She was all over the place talking to people. And at one point, she came to check with me how I'm doing. And I'm like, I don't know. All these people are talking. What can I do here? She's like, let me introduce you. So that's what someone can do for you. Someone you already know or someone you already talked to, ask them to introduce you to someone else.
Yes, for sure. So in some parlances, that might be called like a wingman or a wing person or wing, where you bring someone. It might be more of a social situation where you bring someone to a party and they can, introduce you to people. But it's very helpful to just, the term would be break the ice and start the conversation and invite you into discussions. Yeah.
So let me continue with that example because I learned a lot from it. So she introduced me to so we were two women engineers, the both of us. And she's like, let me introduce you to another engineer. She was as a third woman engineer in that room full of men. So I felt a little bit more comfortable. And I start like, all these people know each other. Why they talk? They seem like they know forever. And she's like, no, that's what people are coming to networking event because they want to meet new people. And I'm like, and how do you meet someone? What do you say? Talking about the Jigna comment. And she's like, it's very easy. You go to someone and say, hello, I'm Gabriela, and you give the hand and they shake your hand and you can ask a question.
Yes.
Who are you? How do you find the event? Or find a question to start a conversation. And as an introvert, it's very useful because if you start with a question, it gives you time while the other person responds to figure out what you will say next.
Yes.
Absolutely. And then you say something and the other person is saying it. So you can build on that conversation this way. And also you can rely on, I like to find new ways of doing things. So at one point I was asking, would you like to do an informational interview with me? Because he was an engineer, I was an engineer, but he was in construction. I was in electronics engineering before I changed to coaching.
Sure.
So he's like, what can I do for you? We are in different fields. I'm like, yeah, but you're in Canada for a long time. You know the Canadian market. So I have to give him reasons why he can meet me. Yes. So sometimes when you're asking something, people might not have anything in mind. But if you give them some ideas, some ways how they can help you, they might be willing to. And the guy was open to the conversation, to have a conversation outside the networking event.
So how did that work? How did that work out for you?
It's my fault I didn't follow up with that. So that's another point, and I let you talk about follow-up if you want. But that was the first first test. At least I
Yeah.
went.
Well, no, exactly. It was a step. And I think you're talking about kind of connecting the dots, because you may have in mind, where you want to go, what you're trying to achieve. And sometimes you need to help other people along to understand why you need the help in that area. The other thing is, as a newcomer to Canada, in a particular field, the odds are like you've got international experience. You've probably been to many countries or worked in many countries that Canadians who are born here haven't. The odds are you potentially know other languages that they may not know. You have other connections. Like you have a whole network and expertise that you can share. So I think it's the more people you can help, the more they're going to be able to help you. So it's what we call like a two-way street. So what I would say is like going into a situation like that where you don't know anyone, maybe you set a goal for yourself that you want to help 3 people. Only 3 people. Maybe there's 100 people in the room. But it's by helping other people, you'll feel more motivated to want to go to other networking events. Like I get a lot of joy from helping other people and helping them in an area that I've learned a lot from. So that's something that I would keep in mind.
Yeah, and I like what you're saying, because everyone has something to offer.
Yes, absolutely.
We're going into a situation, we're changing career, and we don't have anything in the new direction. Actually, we bring a lot of skills and expertise that it is transferable to the new
Absolutely.
profession. Or you go to a new city, you don't know anyone there, you think you need a lot of help, but other people expect also something in return. They might not expect, but will be happy if you offer something. So I have another example. Someone sent his resume to different companies, and one company, one day he received a call from the manager who received his resume. He's like, you know what, I don't have an opening right now for you, but I know my friend works in another company and he has an opening. Would you mind if I send your resume to the other person? Of course, he said yes. But the manager continued. He's like, you know what? I know you're new to Canada, but I have a question for you. I have a basement apartment and I want to rent it. Do you know someone? And the guy said, no. And he stopped there. I'm like, you could say, I don't have anyone in mind right now, but if I hear something, I'll let you know. So leave the door open. Don't just stop the conversation there.
Yes.
Because it happens that one day someone came to me, she said, I need to connect with this type of person. And I didn't know anyone. But the next day, I met the same type of person she asked for. So you never know what's happening, what opportunities are coming up. So be open.
Exactly. And this, the census from 2021 just came out. So there's almost 37 million Canadians. Some of us who grew up here think that's a lot of people. Some people come from other parts of the world, think that that's a very small number. And really it is. The number of people that people are connected to and know. So it's like you're taking initial steps in the relationship. You're getting to know the people. They're getting to know you. A friend of mine who runs a networking group in Scotland always talks about who knows what you know. That's a great quote from Lee Foster from Revitalize Business Connects. And it's all about getting people to understand where your area of expertise is, and just starting to build that relationship. There's a lot of steps, like Gabriela. I mean, we've known each other for probably going on 4 years now, I think.
Yeah.
So initially you get to meet a person, you see them online, you can meet them at some events, and eventually you end up doing collaborations together. But it's building these relationships, and it's building relationships with strangers and people you don't know. That's really kind of what networking is all about.
And these relationships will help you one way or another, maybe directly or indirectly. One way it helped me when I changed from engineering to coaching. I was going through the coaching training, and one of my colleagues came to me in the break. She's like, "Why are you so quiet? Why you don't say anything?" I'm like, I keep thinking how I can make the shift from engineering to coaching because I'm learning these skills. I love the new profession, but how do I make this shift? And 2 days after, she came with an idea. You know what? I noticed is this program about coaching the newcomers. They start mentoring programs. So you could be a good fit because you have a professional background. You have a good communication skills at a professional level. And you also have the new coaching skills that are very useful in these conditions. So she opened my mind how I can bridge that those two professions to go from one to another. So you don't know who will help you in what way.
Exactly. And now during the pandemic, we've all been, connecting online, and connecting with people that never thought I would connect with. I mean, I worked in, like I said, I've worked in some of these multinational corporations where I would do business with people in Europe or Australia or Central America, South America, Asia, but never would meet them. But now there's so many people that I've been able to connect with. I mean, I've gone to networking events in England and Ireland and Scotland and the U.S. and Australia and like all over the place.
So let me ask you, what
From
did you
some,
get from those networking events? If you go outside your country to a networking event online, so what do you get personally from that experience?
So a ton of new connections, a ton of collaboration opportunities. It is also a way to definitely stand out. So when you're getting up at 4:30 in the morning to join a networking event in Scotland at 5 o'clock, I can tell you there are not a lot of other people from North America who are joining, so you do stand out. You can also bring expertise about your particular market to the conversation. You would be surprised that a lot of the networking groups in all these countries that I've mentioned have similar people who join who are small business people, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs. There's a lot of similar areas of expertise. It's also a way that you can come on as an expert speaker. So I've been able to speak and present at some of these events where I may have not had the chance back home, but I have a chance overseas because you're seen as potentially a bit of an international expert. You can help the branding of some of these international groups to help them be seen as more global. I think a lot of it is a mindset change that I needed to make. Was there were other people who were helping newcomers or coaching, and what I had to realize was that all the potential there was not to see people as competitors, not to see them as, I'm not going to share with them or I'm not going to potentially work with them because they're in a similar space as I am. Actually, those folks, there's all kinds of opportunities to collaborate with them. So what I do is I do networking for newcomers, professional networking advisor. So I've met other professional networking advisors in Glasgow, Scotland, and Melbourne in Australia, and Boston, Massachusetts, all over Canada. So there's people may be in a similar field, but there's great opportunities to potentially collaborate with them, learn from them, and make some new friends, which we could all use over the last couple of years during the pandemic.
Yeah, and I also want to bringing back to your own brand. Even if you're not in the business world, if you don't have your own business like you and I have, if you want to build your career path, you can use this experience. It will build your LinkedIn profile, for example. When people hear that you talked at another big event, when you share your experience, when you share what you learn, people start looking at you as an expert in whatever field you are. So you can build not only your credibility, but also you can increase your visibility so more people get to know about you. Use the algorithm, LinkedIn, more you're
Yes.
active, more they show your profile and your updates to other people. So this is a way to go from where you are right now to building an image, a brand of who you are as a professional, so other people can see you before they even meet you.
Yeah. I think one I guess tip about Canadian business culture, and hopefully this is changing, but
Mm.
um, what I've seen in the last 35 years is a lot of Canadians will be a little more cynical about solutions that are built in Canada, unfortunately. But we'll see people who've got international experience potentially maybe a little bit more positively. So if you can actually go and have some of this international experience and then bring it back home, in some ways it will help your personal brand.
Yeah, and also not only showing your international experience, but also having the courage to speak up.
Mhm.
Because a lot of people I noticed, I did a lot of workshops even before pandemic, and during the pandemic I switched to webinars. A lot of people stay in the observer role, to absorb the information, to notice what's happening there. But when you're an active participant, you learn more.
Yes.
More people know about you, can get an idea how you think, who you are. So you project a certain image, and that image will help you one way or another. And plus, when you're doing that, even as an introvert, I force myself to ask a question, for example, or to connect with a few people if I'm at a networking event or a virtual webinar. I make a conscious effort to do something to increase my comfort zone, because every time when you increase your comfort zone and you go to a next
Yes.
your opportunity, your comfort zone increases even more and even more. So right now I'm talking to you, but several years ago I couldn't go live like we are doing this interview right now. But I'm more comfortable right now because I did these things that helped me get to this point. So all of us, we are kind of on a level evolution path. So if you don't push yourself in uncomfortable situation to learn from them, you won't become more comfortable, a little bit more comfortable next time and next time and next time.
Absolutely. So, I mean, a personal example for myself. I remember speaking with one of the experts in networking from the States. His name is Robbie Samuels. He's written a number of books about networking.
Mhm.
And I had joined one of his networking groups that he ran basically every Friday as a Friday happy hour. Every single Friday, it started off as a half-hour session on 6 o'clock on or 5 o'clock on Fridays, but and by the end of the where we are now, he was running 2 hour sessions with people across North America. Anyway, Robbie's great contact. I'd asked Robbie because he's had his own podcast show, and he's on episode about 260 now, called on the Schmooze.
Mhm.
So you'll find it on your favorite app. It has podcasts. Anyway, so I'd asked him for some advice about starting a podcast, and he gave me some tips and suggestions, very, very helpful. And I thought about it, it's like, oh, this sounds a bit overwhelming to do it. So what I did last year was I teamed up with another collaborator, Hamad Siddiqui, who is a LinkedIn coach, who's actually out of Oshawa, and we actually did a series of LinkedIn Live. So he had some of the technology set up. I joined him similar to what we're doing, and we actually did 12 episodes with guests.
Mhm.
So it actually went quite well, and I enjoyed it. And he's off and now doing so many things with his own business and
Mhm.
helping people with LinkedIn. But it's like, you know what? Maybe I could actually do a podcast. So
Mhm.
that's where I've got my invested in my mic and everything else. So I'm actually going to be starting a podcast in Q2.
Mhm.
So I'm aiming to help newcomers to Canada who may be a bit discouraged after having been here for a few years
Mhm.
and are looking to redirect their career and their ambitions. and potentially looking at moving into another part of Canada, but need some advice and tips. So I'm going to bring on people who are motivational and educational from other parts of Canada and internationally, who can help them with the mindset and the research to help make that another move. So they made the big move to Canada, but now they're making kind of a secondary move to advance their career. So I'm looking, going to be starting that. Again, I got the experience both from talking to Robbie and from pushing my limits and my comfort zone, as you talked about, through working with Hamad last year.
Yeah. Another thing that I would like to say, people in Canada at least heard about informational interviews. I found them very useful to build your network. It might not be so fast like when you're going to a networking event, but I found it from an introvert perspective. It's more, if you think of quantity and quality, you add some quality to that discussion. You have more time with a person. So, for example, you reach out to someone on LinkedIn and ask, hey, do you have 15, 20 minutes for an informational interview? And if the person accepts, you can set up that interview whenever you're both available, and just going and talking with that person, you can create a better connection, and you can get much more information than just maybe 5 minutes when you talk at a networking event.
Yeah, exactly.
If you start doing this from one interview to another, you can build your network while also gathering the information that you need. It's that kind of strategic networking that I was talking about. And people are open when they see that you have something to bring. You have good questions to ask. You ask for opinion. People are more open when you ask them something because they feel valuable. You come to them to ask for advice. So a lot of people are kind of refraining themselves to go out and meet new people, but actually we all are human beings. We need that social interactions. It's up to us to make it more comfortable.
Yes.
Comfort levels that we are okay with, maybe a little bit stretched if you want to grow. So it's important to not just stay in your own bubble, because nothing happens when you're in your own bubble. And in time, you might get a lot of negative beliefs that I cannot do this, nothing happened. So it's up to you as well as a person to take charge of your path, to take charge of your networking efforts, for example, if you're thinking about networking.
Yeah, definitely. It's taking personal responsibility for your own career direction. If you're waiting on your, someone higher up to provide you direction, it's unlikely to happen. You need to take ownership of your own career. And yeah, the informational interviews are great. I would say that now that we're doing so much over Zoom, in some ways you might actually have more luck being able to set up time with someone doing an informational interview virtually than if you were trying to organize a meeting in a coffee shop, because there's no commute time. A lot of, some professionals are still working at home, and they may be able to fit you in better within their schedule. And also there's tools like Calendly, etc., that will help with scheduling. But I think it's a matter of how much time you're asking for. If you ask for like 15 minutes, people will probably be able to give you 15 minutes. If you ask for half an hour, it's too much of an ask for people you don't know. So what I would say is be prepared. And as introverts tend to be very good at being prepared, doing the research, and you want to ask maybe 3 high impact questions. So these are questions that you would ask that it's not publicly available information. It's not something where you can go to someone's LinkedIn profile or Google their company website and find that information. You're asking about the impact on business and growth and strategy, but it's information that's not, proprietary or confidential, but it is impactful information. And the other thing to ask is, if it goes well, and they may give you a little bit more time. That's a sign that it's positive. Is can you suggest one or two people, knowing what you do now about what I'm looking for,
Mm-hmm.
that might be able to assist and follow up, like you talked about earlier, Gabrielle. Follow up within, I'd say within 12 hours. Send them a note. Send them an article. Find a posting. Find a news article, magazine article, something that what you know about them and their industry, sector, job, profession would be helpful for them. Because again, this whole networking is, you need to go in at the mindset that you're going to help other people. If it's all about, I need these people to help me, people will start to pick up on that and be reluctant to help you. But you're a resource. You're a newcomer. You've got all kinds of international experience. You know people. You know a lot of things for other markets. There's a lot of value that you bring. And I would encourage newcomers to see themselves as
Equal.
a peer, equal. You're coming in as a peer discussion, and you're act as a consultant. Put your consulting hat on. You're there to give them advice, give them some suggestions. Maybe there's a market they hadn't thought of. Maybe there's a product innovation that you've seen in your home market that they're not aware of. Maybe there's a process improvement that there's all. Canada is the most fortunate country in the world, but there's all kinds of problems that we need to have solved, and maybe you've got some of those solutions.
Yeah, and I want to share an example. It's also how you approach people, not only approaching them, but how you approach them. When I shared this strategy with people in my workshops, one of them said, it's not working. I sent two requests and I didn't get any answer. So first of all, it's not just by sending two requests when you get answers. Send more requests, and some people might be busy, they might not want to, but some might respond. And she came back, she's like, I tried to send more and it's still not happening. I'm like, what do you put in the message? And she said, hello, my name is, I'm a project manager. Do you have 15-20 minutes for an informational interview? I'm available Tuesday and Thursday at 2:00. So
there's probably a few challenges with that approach.
Yeah, you can comment on that, because I have my own comments as well.
Yeah, I guess you're building relationships with people, and that's one of the reasons why something like LinkedIn, which didn't exist when I started my career, it's really taken off since I would say, from my point of view, really from the financial crisis. Because I remember quick story, Gabrielle. I remember being in the financial industry. 2006, one of my staff had come to me and said, "Oh, Brent, this is amazing new website, and you put your resume and you can connect with people. It's called LinkedIn. You got to try it out." So I went on it. It's like, Mark, okay, I'll try it out. I went on. And it's like, okay, I'm going to search for people in the company I work at, which is in financial services. Things are still booming. 2006. Couldn't really find anyone. 2 years later, financial crisis on Wall Street. The financial industry is coming down. Guess what? I go back in, put my name in. Wow, there's a lot of people from my company and a lot of others who are suddenly on LinkedIn. And that's, again, we're talking like 14, 15 years ago. But it's an amazing tool to build your personal brand, to tell people about you before you actually call them. And a lot of people, in business development, you will, check people's LinkedIn profile before you have a conversation. And people expect that you'll do that because they don't want to have, they don't have much time to talk, and they want you to have done your homework. And now that all these profiles on people are out on platforms like LinkedIn, there's so much to know, and we can get down to business so much quicker because we know a bit more about each other. And the more we know about each other, the more we can personally grow and the more business we can do together.
Yeah, and also don't impose your own schedule to someone else. You're reaching out for the first time. Let them first accept or not your request,
Yes.
and give them the option to choose email, phone, Zoom,
Oh,
time.
the format, exactly. So they may be happy to send emails back and forth. That's what they've got time for.
Yeah.
Or they might want to do Zoom. They want to do just a phone call. Like you've got to be. I think that's the point you're getting at, Gabrielle. It's like you need to be open in terms of their time, because you're making an ask of them. You need to be open in terms of the format. Be flexible. Like it's you're the one coming to them asking for help. So I wouldn't advise you to be prescriptive. Tell them why you're coming to them, going back to what we talked about earlier. But in terms of how you communicate, when fitting in their schedule, you need to have some flexibility. Now, again, I'm not saying I'll meet you anytime of the day or night. That looks like you're a bit desperate. You don't have a plan, and you're not a busy person, which you actually are. So it's calibrating this happy medium in terms of how often to follow up, how much to ask. And again, those come back to challenges that newcomers tend to have in Canada, is this calibration around how much to ask for, how often to ask, how frequent to ask. Those are challenges, and they can be a little tricky to figure out.
Yeah, and you can try and adjust in time. Try, see the result.
And also the people we talk to are going to have different needs and requirements too.
Yeah.
So
We have here a comment from Quentin. He said he's a perfect example of an introvert who took the courage to explore other parts of Canada. Congratulations, Quentin!
Yeah, I'd love to know where he went. But the fact that he has explored other parts of Canada, good for him. There's so many beautiful parts and amazing parts of this country, and good on Quentin for doing that.
Yeah, so this shows that it is possible as an introvert to explore, to go out, to find your path wherever you are in Canada or in the world. Because it's not because you're an introvert, you have to stay at home and not connect with people. You can find your ways. And I can share at Introverts Academy, we have a course called Networking the Introvert Way. I'm talking in this course also about how to manage your energy. Because as an introvert, if you go to a networking event, if you talk to someone, your energy is drained faster. So how you can manage your energy to build your network so you can get those benefits? I'm talking about challenges and benefits of networking, about how to set your intention. You were talking about earlier about the comfort zone. There are so many aspects you can consider when you think about networking. And since we were talking about the career change and maybe starting a business, we also have a mini course on Introverts Academy platform about what's happening in your mind when you shift from one direction to another. There is a lot of communication in your mind. Am I good enough? What is if I can't succeed? What's happening? And on top of that, there are people around you who don't understand why you do the change. So you have to fight both external and internal dialogue, and there are many things happening. So we have a mini course on how to help you navigate that.
I love that one about the mindset and the jumping into the void, Gabrielle. I think that's a really useful course. I remember when I mentioned being in financial services. I'd been there for about 20 years. Decided I kind of pretty much had done everything that I could in that particular space, and I wanted to move on. Well, the number of people who came to me and said, "Oh, I've got a perfect job for you," and it's basically was a job description of what I had been doing by a different company, and it's like, no, I actually I want to take the skills, transferable skills, and actually look at doing something else. So maybe I'll just end with a quick analogy. This is related to paths and directions. So if you look at a map of North America, you'll see, so we've got, excluding our friends in Mexico and Central America, but Canada and the United States. So if you were to go from the west coast of North America to the east coast and go through Canada, there are a limited number of highways that you could take the whole distance. Basically, the Trans-Canada Highway. There's also a highway that starts in Prince Rupert, goes through Edmonton, Saskatoon, but goes through Winnipeg. So a lot of some of the newcomers I meet, it's like, I want to have this particular career. This is exactly what I was doing before. And I'm focused on that one Trans-Canada Highway road to get me from Victoria to Mile Zero in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. What I encourage them to do, though, is, and it's happened with my career in terms of number of paths and twists and turns, is if you were in the States and you were going from Los Angeles to New York City, the number of interstate highways that you could take and the number of different routes are multiples of the number of the highway system in Canada. And there are many different ways to reach your destination. And I kind of encourage newcomers to think about their career path that way. That yes, you've got an ultimate destination, but there's a lot of potentially different ways that you can reach that destination. So think about more, the interstate highway system and how that is set up.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. So think about your long-term goal and don't get stuck in the idea that there is only one way to get there. I need this type of jobs, that it's my ideal job. Maybe you can take a few different jobs that could take you closer to your goal.
Yes. Well, yeah, exactly.
So tell us about Brent Canada, your page on LinkedIn.
And sure. Okay. Yeah. So BrentCanada Experiences, as I mentioned, this is my passion project. I've been working at it for about over 5 years now, 4 years. And what I do is offer coaching. I do speaking opportunities. I encourage people to visit my LinkedIn company page at BrentCanada Experiences. And there's different ways that I can help newcomers, connect them with other people who are with settlement agencies, etc. I'm not a immigration consultant. That's not my space. You need to go to registered people for that. But I do some coaching around professional networking and how to improve that as a newcomer. And I also would encourage you to listen to my podcast when it comes out in the second quarter of 2022.
And this is your page on LinkedIn, Brent Canada.
This is my company page on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn company BrentCanada Experiences. So I encourage you to visit. And I've also got a YouTube page where I've got some of the prior LinkedIn lives that I've done, and some of these podcasts that I've been on and talked about coaching newcomers on improving their professional networking.
Yeah, and I noticed some resources on your website. So I like that. Also, since we talked a lot about finding a new job, a new career, Introverts Academy has books. These are award-winning, best-selling books that you can find on our website. The links, some of them are on Amazon. One is for free, the One Job Search Guide for Introverted Newcomers. So the last one, for example, the black cover, this was a collaboration. We were talking about collaborations earlier. So you never know who you end up collaborating on something, and you help each other in whatever goal you have. You don't have to kind of let your goal aside and help the other person just because you need to help someone. In time, you might find these opportunities to help each other. So that's why we're talking about networking today, because it's kind of a way of living. At one point, I asked in a workshop, someone said, "Oh, but back home in our country, people don't do networking. They don't use all these strategies." And my question was, if you go back right now and start using these strategies that you're learning here, what do you think will happen? And the answer was like, "Oh, that would be really great." But I didn't think about these strategies before. So I will love to leave people, and I'll give you the word right away. I would love to give people with the concept that whatever you're doing right now, think like a playground. Try to see what's happening. Be open, be curious, because you never know what's coming up. So,
Absolutely.
what do you have the last word for?
A mindset of curiosity will take you amazing places. And I encourage all newcomers, the fact that you've chosen Canada as your new home has taken a tremendous amount of courage, resources, risk taking, and curiosity. And now that you're here, I encourage you to keep expanding all those skills that you had and have brought to our country.
Yeah, don't just think that they brought you here and now you have to relax. You have those skills, start using them in this environment as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, Gabriela, it was it was an absolute pleasure. It was great to collaborate with you. Thank you so much for all your great questions, and I really appreciate it.
I think there is one comment, but I cannot see it. There is a glitch in my system, so maybe we can go on the comments to see if there is anything else, and we'll answer there.
Sure.
So thank you, everyone, for coming, and I'll see you at the next live with Gabriela in March. I'm doing one per month, so that's the introvert pace.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have
Take
a
care.
good evening. You too. Bye.